Hey, Mike here. Today I want to show you how to make custom French doors for a closet in your house or your office or I don't know, your car. Maybe you have a big car. Make these custom doors out of pre-hung doors that you can get from Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. So when we framed this out, we framed it out to be about, I think it's like 50 inches wide. The idea was to take two 24-inch pre-hung doors and kind of chop them up and make a custom French door. I'm going to use the same technique that I used to hang all my pre-hung doors. And if you haven't watched that video, I would suggest you watch that video before you watch this one. I'll link that one. If I know how to do it, I'll put it somewhere around here. But I'd watch that one first because we're going to use pretty much all the same tools to hang these doors as we did to hang those other doors. All right, so we're gonna start with some math now. So I actually took some measurements and wrote them down here. So the actual width of this between here and here, now this is after I plumbed everything, of course. So it's the same width here and the same width up there, and they're both plumbed, is 49 3/4, okay? We have two pre-hung doors with just the hinge side attached to them. So when you add the hinge side and you add the door, you get 24 and a half. Okay, so we have two of those, 24 and a half gives us 49. So what that leaves us with is 3/4 of an inch. Now, if we didn't do anything, we just mounted one door here and one door here, we'd have 3/4 of an inch reveal right down the middle, which is a little bit too big. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move one of the doors in. So I'm gonna install one of the doors directly to the framing, and then I'm gonna move the other door in about 1/2 of an inch. The other math we had to do, which was a little more difficult, was the height, because the height here is pretty low. Our total height is 75 1/4. And I installed this piece of trim up here, just a little detail, okay, to make it look nice when it's all done. But this total height from here to here is 75 1/4. We want 1/2 inch, we need to take 1/2 inch off of the jambs, right? So that takes us down to 74 3/4. So our jamb, the part that's gonna go against here, is gonna be 74, you can see how we got there, 74 3/4, okay? So that's the jamb. Then we have to cut the door another 1/2 inch smaller, so that, right, so the door will move inside of the jamb. Okay, so then we take 74 3/4, we take 1/2 inch off of that. We're gonna, remember we have to take 1/4 inch off the top, 1/4 inch off the bottom, right? So that the door is centered inside. And that takes us to the door at 74 1/4, okay? So now you have all these measurements. So then what you need to do is, I'm gonna start with the smallest measurement, 74 1/4. And I'm not gonna just cut the door at 74 1/4. I actually have to kind of make this door smaller by both sides, okay? So I'm gonna come in, first I'm gonna do is cut the top. That's why I have a piece of tape up here, so I know this is the top. I'm gonna come in 1 inch. That just seemed like it made the most sense, right? And I'm gonna cut the top first, and then what that'll do, that'll give me 74 1/4. Then once I cut it, then I'll measure 74 1/4, which is about here, which gives me a nice material left over at the top and a nice set of material left up at the bottom, okay? So that's the door. Then once I cut the door, then I have to cut the jamb, this part. That'll be cut at 74 3/4. And all I'll do is I'll mark where the door ends and I'll add 1/4 inch here, and then I'll add 1/4 inch to the bottom, okay? So I would say the most of the work was just what we did there, figuring out all the math, writing it all down, coming up with a plan. Now I feel good. We'll probably have these doors in, I don't know, 15 minutes, assuming we don't cut anything wrong. All right, so we want to give you a little update. We've cut the first door, and I assumed that these hollow core doors, if you look in here, that there was about 1.5 inches of wood on the bottom. But I guess over the years they've cheaped out and it's only about 3/4 of an inch. So if you cut more than 3/4 of an inch off of a hollow core door, well, you're gonna be left with a hollow core. So what you need to do is when you cut it off, you'll have this piece in there, and the door, you cut it off and it'll look like something like that. We'll have both pieces. What you have to do is pry this masonite off, right? Get it out of the way. And then you're left with the internal piece. And then all you're gonna do is you're just gonna glue it in there, okay? Pound it in there. And if you want, you throw a couple finishing nails in there. I don't think it's really necessary, but you have to do that for both the top and the bottom. And that's if you cut more than 3/4 of an inch off. If you're making custom French doors, I assume you're gonna cut more than 3/4 of an inch off. So that's just something we ran into. The next thing we ran into is, unfortunately, these doors were not hung on the jambs at the same exact place. So we wanted to make sure that when we hung these, that the doors were, that the boxes were in the same line, right? You don't want to have one up here and one down there. You'd see that. But it looks like that's what we're going to have, but it's only going to be about 1/4 of an inch off. And so what I thought I was going to do is actually just measure that 1/4 inch off and cut the doors differently. But instead, my wife pointed out, we probably were more likely to see the doorknobs being off than the boxes being off, because they're not right next to each other. The doorknobs are going to be right next to each other because it's a French door. So I'm going to forget about the boxes for now, and I'm going to focus on making sure that the doorknobs are exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is cut this, the first cut door, put it on top of the other one, make sure it's nice and flush. Make sure it's nice and flush. Basically, we have a template, right? So why would we sit there and measure everything? We're just going to make the same exact door. Again. So for this, whenever you're doing something this exact, where you want it to be exactly the same, you don't want to use a marker or even a pen. A pen would be better than a marker. What I would suggest is you grab your X-Acto knife, and this is how you're going to make your marks on your door. So it'd probably be a good idea to clamp these, which I should have done, but I'll just use my hand. And what I'll do is I'll take my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to put a little mark on there. And I'm going to put a little mark on. Off to the next step of cutting the second door. So after you get your doors cut, matching sets like we did here, and you fill in the hollow core part if you need to do that, the next thing is to hang it. So like I said in the beginning, we were gonna hang this one first directly to the framing because we knew this framing was plumb, okay? Both sides were plumb, all right? If this was any out of plumb at all, I wouldn't even start until you get your two walls plumb. But we started with this side first. We attached the door directly to the framing using the 2.5 inch screws and then what we did was we closed this one, right? And then we checked the spacing on the second one. So then what we did, we put the second one on and we actually used clamps and we clamped it directly to the plumb stud, okay? Again, plumb, plumb, plumb. Then what we did is we closed it, all right? And then what we wanted to kind of figure out is what kind of reveal did we want in between these two doors here? All right, these are two custom cut doors, right? And the reveal was about 3/4 of an inch. So what we did is we actually just made some spacers and we actually used the masonite that comes off of the fascia of the door, the part that we ripped off. We actually reused them. We used spacers and it was just enough when we had it closed, when we were looking at that reveal, we kind of decided, well, and actually right from the beginning, the reveal was the same at the top and the bottom, because again, these were two plumb walls when we started. So what we did was be like, all right, well, if we add that to this would be perfect. So that's what we did. We basically just, wherever we had the screws, you can see the spacers in here, we put a spacer on the top and bottom, and we put a screw right through the middle into the framing. And again, down here, did the same thing. And what that did was that brought this whole door this much closer, whatever this is, a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch, I don't even know. That brought the whole unit closer to this one, which made a beautiful reveal. All right, and now all we need to do is you basically, depending on, I'm not gonna get into casing and everything because I obviously can't put a header casing or anything on. I have to kind of do something a little custom, but yours may be different. But now at this point, you're just got to case out the door, which if you did this, you can case out a door. And then our latch system will be just like any other French door. We just got to figure that out. And I have to put in a stop up here so that the doors don't keep, you know, going in. But that's it. That's the custom $200 French door custom job. Let's call it that. All right, I hope you learned something here. I hope you got the confidence to do this yourself. It was actually a lot easier than I thought, especially if you can hang a regular pre-hung door. Again, if you haven't hung a pre-hung door, refer to my other video. I'll put it over here so you can click on it. And please like, please subscribe, please comment, please subscribe. All right, thank you, and go do your custom French door. Hey, Mike here. Today I want to show you how to make custom bifold. No, that's not what they are. They're not bifold. Hello, Mike here. Today I want to show you how to...
Double doors, right? Double doors,
custom,
French doors. French doors?
Custom French doors, yeah.